Today we're going to look at some projects that were done last year by our Thursday morning volunteer crew. That crew started last May on the urging of Mark Glaser, who's been our trail steward for several years. And Mark thought that he knew some people that he thought would be interested in being part of a regular crew. So thanks to Mark, we now have this. And they did quite a bit of work last year. And we're starting with this project right here. This view from the trail to the schoolhouse down to the water. That was all grown in. On the other side of that sunken area, that's the Quarry Garden, where they, back in 1938, when the schoolhouse was built, where they quarried the stone to build the schoolhouse. So just on the other side of that sunken area, that berm right there, there was all vegetation, all roundleaf dogwood and some arborvitae trees, and it was just a complete wall, and you could barely see, except for where the walking trail is, down to the water. And this is an important part of Jensen's design for this property, these views down to the water from here, from the lodge looking down to the lake, from the schoolhouse window looking down to the lake. So we had the crew brush all of this, that area and a little bit beyond it. That combined with some work that Bob Gracie, he had a class on the landscaping in the Jensen style back in summer. They did some work further down in the meadow to open it up even more. So now we have this great view from the schoolhouse path down through that schoolhouse meadow to the water. There's a little sunset ring that Jensen built back in his day right here for people to sit. There's a bench right here. So it's really a nice spot to look at the down through this meadow to the water. You can make out Upper Michigan just beyond. It's about 16 miles away. And then, of course, in the high summer, the sun sets in this view. So that was a great project that the volunteer crew did last year. The first project that the volunteer crew did last year was invasive plant control, which has been an ongoing effort at the clearing for many, many years. And the first area they worked was this woods right here. We're just east of the campus, just east of the campus parking lot, on the road to the parking lot. And from here south, about 60, 70 yards or so, all the way to the main road going through the property, and all the way to the west to the utility corridor. This area last year was the 7th year that one way or another we've picked every flowering forget-me-not that we could find in here every year, and with the goal to see how many years it takes to exhaust the seed supply of this invasive plant. It's a pretty blue flower. A lot of people love it, but every place where one is growing, there could be a trillium or a lady slipper or some other native wildflower. So this is kind of an experiment to see how long it takes to exhaust the seed supply. And when we first started 7, 8 years ago, it was just covered in blue. And every year there's a little less. Last year there wasn't that much. But the crew started in here and picked them all that were in flower. And we started some other areas too because we had so many people. So for several of our first Thursdays, we just picked forget-me-nots. And the crew seemed to like doing it. And we moved into some other invasives later in the season, like Dame's Rocket and Valerian and a few others. But we'll do that again this May. We'll pick this area, every forget-me-not that we find that's flowering, we'll pick in here again, and someday there'll be none, we hope. That's the plan anyway. But this will be year 8 coming up. So it's a long-term effort. The project on which the volunteer crew spent the most time last year was the inner meadow renovation. We're in the middle of the property in this great area that we call the inner meadow. kind of tucked away in a place where many people who've come to the clearing for years don't even know about this, but it's right along one of our trails. But these meadows, the trees want to grow in them, and if you want to keep them a meadow, when we do in this case, you have to keep the trees out. It's also closing in from the edges and getting smaller and smaller and smaller. It used to be 5 times this size probably. So it's really gotten small over the last 70, 80 years. So the crew was in here cutting shrubs out, cutting some small trees out, making piles. You can see the piles further down that we've got to get out of here. We have to have our tree service come in, haul them away or chip them. But and we still have some work to do here. But it was important that we kind of recreate or reinvent this meadow in a way so that it gets a little bit bigger. And along the trail, there's a trail along the east side, and we've created a new trail which I'll show you in a little while along the west side, and we want some views into the meadow in different places along those trails. But it's really a great quiet spot at the clearing, and it was wonderful to finally get a handle on this last year, and we're going to finish it this year, the inner meadow. The orange flags mark the new trail along the west side of the inner meadow. The one on the east side's been there for a long, long time. But we thought once we got going on this renovation project, it'd be nice to run a trail along the west side too, and it weaves in and out of the trees. There's still a little bit of work to do on it. We'll probably put a light sprinkling of mulch on it so it's easier to see. We'll do that this spring maybe. But it'll be nice to give people 2 ways to traverse along the edge of the inner meadow. The last project I want to show you that the volunteer crew did is this little stone wall or rock tumble just north of the driveway into the Jensen Center. We're here on Garrett Bay Road. And we did that because, well, it would look nice, but because we wanted to kind of repeat a stone element on this side of the driveway that matches kind of our new sign and stone element on the south side. So it's a nice little project and looks great. We might at some point extend it a little further to the north because we have plenty of stone around here. But they did a nice job on this.